Because he brought your own, don't be ripping them.
Oh, no rip.
Get the other ones in, put the ones on you there.
You wanna sit in here?
Nah, sit here, thank you.
That's right. And I got my cover slip up there, so.
I see what you mean.
You want it- So we can see.
You slide, everybody can slide your chairs
I
this
have
way.
huge
Because
hands,
I don't
man.
need to sit.
I know.
I don't need to sit. That's why you can
You've
just.
seen it before?
So you want me to wipe my hand, my finger?
Once or twice?
Longest finger of your left hand, and wipe it on the side, not on the pad.
There.
Why does it have to be the longest on the left?
Because that, of all your fingers and thumbs on both hands, your middle finger, which there is no such thing as a middle finger, because there's only 4 fingers in a thumb, so there's no middle of even. So it's always,
Ah! All right.
not always, but that's okay. Just leave that alone. Don't worry about that.
Now that you want me to pop me?
Yep.
So why is it, I'm sorry?
It's the only one on both hands that has a direct pathway to your artery. So of
There?
all your fingers and thumbs, this has the best circulation. Yeah.
Oh, this sucks. You ready?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh!
I'm gonna wipe off the.
I can't do it.
Well, here, I'll do it. All I'm gonna do is poke to trigger.
What do you want? There?
Yeah. Just do it. Boom. Michael, it doesn't
Ah!
hurt.
Go!
For crying out loud. See how thin your blood is? Look at that. I don't have to squeeze.
Yeah.
Here it comes.
Yeah.
And look at the color of it. Nice red. So,
It's because I take your stuff.
yeah. Now, we always get rid of the first drop. Always, always. Well, I better leave that up there so you can put something on it when I get done with it. Yeah, that's going to look really nice.
Yeah.
You can tell already there's not much stickiness at all. You don't even have to touch it now that it comes. All right, put your little gauzy thing on there.
That one?
Yep. And I'll show you how thin your blood is. That little teeny drop of blood almost filled that slide.
Wow.
Is that good that it's
That's
thin?
thin, yeah.
All right, good.
Is that good, Ron?
That's very good.
We're gonna find out, because you know what? I ask plenty of questions.
That's very, very good.
I'm like a lawyer.
Can't wait to get this stuff up there and show
Right.
everybody what enzymes can do.
Please. No degenerative diseases.
No.
Well, after your presentation yesterday, Ron, the enzymes sold out at the store.
Did they really?
Yeah, I went to go try and get some more and there was
Oh.
none.
We got them here.
Okay, cool.
Keep the thing on that film too.
And I'm really serious about you guys that want to come and do a personal thing and stuff in your local communities and all that. That's definitely something I think that everybody would really benefit from.
Yes, definitely.
Well, this is what blood should look like.
Right there, it's moving all over.
There you go. That's picture perfect blood. Not going to be any fibrinogen in there. They're all moving separately. They're properly formed. All those shiny tips on the end and stuff, that's actually
Wow.
electrolyte energy. And it turns down just a tad.
Ooh, what's the
What is
squiggly
that one that has
That's a
squiggly
free
stuff?
radical damage cell that just went by.
Okay.
Free radical, you've all heard of oxidative damage, the reason
Right.
it takes antioxidants. That's an example of what it does to a red blood cell. It has that real jaggedy edge around it.
Yeah.
So that red blood cell is totally worthless to the human body when that damage occurs to the membrane. Because in order for oxygen to actually stick or chelate attached to a red blood cell, that entire surface area has to be available just to pick up one single oxygen molecule. When you start overlapping cells and stuff, you'll never hit 98, 99, 97% oxygen in your blood. It's impossible to do that because there's not enough surface area. You can do 85, 89, 91 and keep you alive.
And look how nice those are.
Oh yeah,
All separated.
really, really nice and round, yeah.
And those separated.
No yeast. See, there's a free radical damage cell right in the middle. And that's an example of oxidative damage. Your body, just by the mere fact we use oxygen to exist, you're going to have oxidative damage because of the high oxygen environment after oxygen use occurs. You're going to have some of that stuff. You just don't want to have a lot of it. Chemicals like pesticides, herbicides, hairsprays, perfumes, glues, gasolines. I mean, there's a whole bunch of chemicals, and some of them are actually carcinogenic. They'll actually be so damaging to the cell, you actually damage DNA, and it'll mutate once the DNA is damaged into cancer or some other form of a rogue cell. What up? Oh, here we go. I was going to say, but I wanted to find was a big white blood cell. Ooh, Michael. Oh, there went your A down to an A minus. You know what that is, right?
Uric acid.
Yep.
What is it?
How come you don't get trained on this?
Uric
damn
acid.
I can't even poke my
Seriously?
own finger, let alone
Well,
look
hey,
at somebody else's stuff.
I don't like poking my finger, but I'm happy to poke anybody else's.
Oh, yeah, but
So anyway, that's what really, really oxidized uric acid looks like. The harder it oxidizes, the harder it gets, the more it cracks and cracks and cracks. It's kind of like rust on metal. That's a perfect example of severe oxidation, where the metal, we already know metal is hard, but it hardens even much, much harder than the metal base that it is. And the harder it gets, the more it cracks and flakes. And that's a byproduct of all protein digestion. And that's old. That's been circulating for several days, because you can tell by the tiny micro fragments that the
so does
size
that
of
cause
it.
pain and joint?
That's what causes the disease gout, gouty arthritis, and inflammatory joint disease, yeah.
And you said you get that mostly from eating beef and pork. And
You're going to get it from any protein source,
Oh,
vegetable
okay.
or animal flesh. The highest producer of uric acid, because it's so muscular dense and it's in the body, so the longest of all forms of meat, flesh, protein, is beef. Next one is pork. The next one is chicken. And there is a big difference between the wing and the drumstick and the thigh versus the breast. The breast will produce slightly less than the dark meat. So if you're eating turkey legs versus turkey breast, your legs are going to produce more uric acid. And it's very rare, but I did a huge presentation. In fact, I was part of a medical lecture. And again, I'm not a licensed medical anything. At Walla Walla, Washington, at the Seventh-day Adventist College over there. And if you know anything about the Seventh-day Adventist religion, they're the strictest vegans on the planet Earth. They do not eat anything with eyes. The only thing they consume is something that comes from a root. If it doesn't have a root, it's not allowed to be consumed by their religious beliefs. And yet I went over there, they were so impressed with the whole course that I did for the medical school that the community asked me if I would do a lecture for the community. So we had their high school auditorium with about 1,300 people in there. And well over half, probably I'd say 700-800 people, had some form of cancer, arthritis, gout, degenerative diseases.
And he can
So that's why I'm always telling people, what makes a good diet good and a bad diet bad? It is not the damn food choice. Great, I mean, if consciously you want to eat organic, great. That's cleaner than a lot of that other chemical stuff. It's pesticides. There's a benefit to that. But what makes a good diet truly good and a bad diet bad, even organic foods, if you don't have the ability to produce the enzymes to efficiently and completely digest that food source, your organic food just became organic toxicity in your body. It will build up. The protein will eventually turn into uric acid, even from vegetarian proteins. Normally, the reason you very rarely hear about this is, from a vegetarian having gout or gouty arthritis or anything to do with gout, is because vegetable proteins, no matter whether they're beans, no matter what the source, they're almost always produced in about 4 to 6 hours, or digested, and then they're eliminated within 6 hours. You can literally eat a tomato meal, and a vegetarian meal, and then watch 6-7 hours later, there it goes out the toilet. It's completely in and out and through the body in less than 6 hours normally, even with a compromised diet. That's why it's so rare to hear a vegetarian that actually has gout. But like the Seventh-day Adventists, like all the Amish, like a lot of people do, they can their foods. And in order to can, you have to sterilize everything, which means boiling water, even the jar. And then once you sit there and put your food into the jar to be canned, you put that seal not quite tight, but then you're boiling it 10, 15, 20 minutes inside of that pot just to get that lid to seal. That killed off every single bit of digestive help you had in that food source. It's 100% dead. And you can even alter some of the nutritional value where it's not nearly as nutritious, just by the heat.
So Ron, in order for us to have
good digestion, do we need all three of the products we have?
When you say all three, what
Well-
three references? Definitely need the probiotics and digestive enzymes.
We have a prebiotic and probiotic and digestive
What's the
enzymes, right?
prebiotic?
The bees, the bee tabs from the honeybees.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, bees, anybody wants to ever get a good B12 source, honeybees are the best honey. Anything to do with the comb, the honey, anything to do with the beehive, that is loaded with
So I make the
vitamin
bee
B12.
tabs because we come from a bee farm, but I don't use my bees. But I use cross-pollinated, so it works around the world, right?
Right.
Because they say use the same.
Right.
If you got something going on, you got allergies, you want to use it from the region, like that.
Correct.
If you're in the Midwest.
Otherwise, you're gonna have allergies to
Right.
it because it's a
But
different protein
if you use
profile than your body
cross-pollinated
used
pollen, jelly, propolis, and honey, if you use all those cross-pollinated, it'll
Right.
work anywhere in the world.
Right.
So and in the right amounts.
Yeah.
So I make them in the right amounts, and those are killer prebiotics. All right, what else we can
to. Well, what I wanna do is get farther away, see how much of this uric acid you got, and I don't wanna get too much into conversation, because this is really only viable as an accurate viewing for about a half hour. So this part goes really fast. And there it is. You're gonna see me go really fast, but like I said, in the meeting, I've done over 68,000 people's blood. That's a major city.
Is that more
So-
of it there?
Yeah, it's kind of up at the top, that's it down there at the bottom. But I don't want to kind of waste my time on just this, so I'm just looking for the really big stuff. So we know that there's a couple areas of uric acid, so that's kind of an issue, but not a problem. Because again, your digestion isn't being compromised, all your red blood cells, even out here at the end, they're all separated. And all these little tiny bubbles, those are just air pockets from when I laid the blood specimen with the cover slip onto the slide.
I want to see how big my immune system cell is.
That's what I want to see too. I saw one and it was huge, and I'm like, oh, there we go. And then we get stuck on this conversation.
Is it supposed to be huge?
Yeah, the bigger, the larger the membrane, the more nuclei material you're going to have inside of it.
So
And when I call it nuclei material, it gets so complicated that I don't
So
know.
average is you can, if you have an average red
The
immune
bigger is
system
always
cell,
better when it comes to referencing
an average
the
one
immune
can fit
system.
maybe 2 to 3 red blood cells size inside the immune system cell. But by taking these products, you should be able to, you can get these things up to 6.
Yep.
It can hold 6, and if that's
No, up to 6 times larger
Right.
cell membrane. So you're going to hold at least 6 times more nuclei material. That nuclei material is what secretes the enzymes along the membrane that dissolves all the impurities, even dissolves a cancer cell, even dissolves, literally digests it down enzymatically with these enzymes, even a HIV infected cell. And when your immune system has got this pristine, clean blood, there's no inflammatory factors, there's no inflammation proteins, there's no incompletely digested proteins from the meal inhibiting oxygenation, things like that. I'm telling you, the human immune system is it's beyond a miracle. That doesn't even begin, and it's beyond magic. I can't even begin to find the words to describe how this stuff works when you really have everything coming together in a really pristine environment. There's nothing on this planet that could even touch you. You'll die of old age, you won't die of a disease or illness.
Right.
If you have a smaller one, is there a way to make it larger, or?
That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
we're gonna talk about that, but yeah, there's a substance, and there's actually a plant that we actually horticultured, and we have complete ownership to that plant. It's actually trademarked, it's patented, and we horticultured it at the University of Hawaii.
So that'll be my next product.
And it's a
I'll bring it up.
glucoside. Glucosides are micronutrients that are attached to sterols, plant fats, and unless you live from a strictly sprouted diet, you'll never ever get glucosides from any food source, plant
That's fine.
source, or in your diet at all.
Let's find
So and in nature, what's that?
let's find one.
Yeah. Well, in nature,
So
the most concentrated glucoside sterols we could find, I think this is a basophil here, was 17 to 22 to 1. Meaning there's only one glucoside every 17 to 22 parts. Yeah, it's a basophil. Now this is a perfect example. See how that's moving around? You can clearly see the nuclei, the granulocytes. Those are called granulocytes, little white marble things in there. And normally I call this a crink-crunk cell. It's like you gotta really look hard, really hard to see any of those granules even moving. You can clearly see easily that thing's moving like crazy. And it's a beautiful size. It's 2.5 times, almost 3 times, it actually is 3 times larger than your red blood cells.
So is that a good thing?
Optimally for a basophil, and it's very, very active. This isn't active, this is very active. And the more activity you get, the more the cell's gonna process through it. So more activity, larger size is always better when it comes to any of all of the immune system cells of the human body. And like I said, normally people that I see their blood, it's about 1 to 1.5, maybe 2 times larger than a red blood cell. So I always said optimally, we want them at least 2.5 to 3 times larger. Now that's that cell. When we get into neutrophils and eosinophils and lymphocytes and leukocytes, that's going to be a whole different, they're even going to fill up that whole space up there. They're monstrous huge. And optimally, we want to build those to where they're at least 5 to 6 times larger than a single properly formed red blood cell. So that is really, really good.
So he's got the sterols, and that's what increases your
Size.
right. So you take them an hour when you wake up in the morning.
quite a
That's
bit
the
of
first thing you
uric
pop
acid.
in your mouth, and you don't eat for an hour, and that's what will increase your immune
Yeah, they
system.
have to be taken on an empty stomach.
Right.
This is something I brought back to the United States and introduced it to the US market.
So I'll be
medically.
bringing that out shortly.
They weren't even using
Awesome.
sterols. Nobody had ever heard of a sterol in the United States before 1989
Why is that?
because it hadn't been educated over here, hadn't been even exposed over here. Medicine is just now starting to realize the benefits of phytoplant sterols. Just now, at reducing cholesterol, at being a much better alternative with less side effects than LDL cholesterol drugs and things like that. But nobody in America even knows about the immunity connection. And the only reason I knew is because I worked with a person who actually discovered that glucoside nutrient, named Professor Carl Pagel. He's the applied chemistry head in the Tau Medical Center of South Africa, outside of Durban. So these are the kind of people that I work with around the world.
You gotta look for
They're
let's
the
look for
innovators, they're the discoverers. I know a Japanese scientist that won a Nobel Prize, Mr. Hiro Ishii. I can't even think of his last name, but anyway, he actually figured out how to completely strip an adult cell and make it an embryonic stem cell. And he can do it by the trillions. He could completely replace your body with the cells of a brand new born baby. And he won a Nobel Prize for that in 2012.
So what's being done with that discovery?
I'll be honest with you, I'm so damn busy, I haven't kept in touch with any of these
That is
people.
incredible.
No, I've worked a lot of years with them on and off and throughout the world, but I mean, these are just the kind of people that I had, just such a unique opportunity. And God blessed my life in so many ways. I could have never ever found the people. They found me, actually, most of them. So it's been a very beautiful life. I have so much to share and give to people, medical community if they want to listen. If not, I'll just bring it straight to the general public. So, but yeah, anyways, that's the thing about sterols. And you have to consume them on an empty stomach, because in some of our trials and tests over there, we found that you could actually stay in the bloodstream for up to 77 days. So while they're just floating around, which means they're not metabolized very quickly at all. And they never ever oxidize, so they're no danger to the body as far as accumulation. And they're tremendous immune modulators, which means they help to regulate the different functionality processes of the enzyme activity within your immune system cells. Like I said, that glucoside is one of the ways that you can enlarge your immune system cells. So we actually horticultured a plant in Honolulu, Hawaii, and it's a 1-to-1 ratio. So it's minimum 17 to 22 times better than any natural food source ever identified for the human diet. Well, you got into some meat meal there somewhere, Michael. Couple days worth. Been on a bench somewhere in the last week or 2 days?
Right now, I don't remember.
Got into it somewhere. Boy, you got into it. But that's the only thing I see. There's no plaque, there's no cholesterol crystals, and the hair were right at the bottom of the cover slip right there. So, all right, let me go back up here to the middle. This is smack dab in the middle. Now let me find some of those white blood cells. See, there's nothing in, well, as soon as I say that, there's a little piece of candida over there, that bacteria there, and there, the little white balls. You can barely see them.
The little white balls are
I know what I mean.
candida,
Mm-hmm.
and does that promote cancer growth?
No,
No.
promotes a lot of unwanted pain.
Well, it's directly related to extreme fatigue and tiredness. I mean, I'm gonna say you're butt dragging tired, aren't you? Yeah, I could sleep all day long, even after an hour after I get up, I could go sleep for another. And that's what it does, it robs your body of oxygen.
Wow.
Your energy is directly proportionate to your ability to absorb and utilize oxygen. That's where your energy comes from, not an increased metabolism. That's the rate at which your body burns calories to create energy. When we're talking about that kind of energy, it's energy for self-functioning, not mechanical movable, let's go out and run and dance all night energy. That comes from your oxygenation.
So mushrooms have, or a form of candida.
Well, it's
does
a
that-
fungus.
Should we stay away from mushrooms then?
No fungus among us.
No.
No, not really.
Well,
I mean, there's mushrooms. I eat mushrooms. They're okay as long as
so
you,
do we.
as long as you have an efficient digestive process, and as long as you have an efficient digestive process. If you weren't born with some major genetic immune flaw, you'll always have good immunity functioning as well. When you compromise and don't get digestion done, that's going to compromise and weaken the ability of your immune system to function. They're hand in hand because they're in the same environment. So, all right. Well, Michael, anything else?
We gotta find an immune system, so.
Oh yeah.
I thought.
We definitely got a little bit of bacteria in here, so you might want to up your probiotics a little bit. It's nothing real major or bad. You just got a little bit of it in this area, that area. Let's go up here. This looks like another basophil. I'm gonna find some.
Michael, besides the B natural fats, there are 3 digestive products.
Yeah, this is a basophil.
Isn't one of them prebiotic?
And again, look at how busy that thing is. That looks like a neutrophil almost. Man, well, that just shows you, what you can create in your life.
So the neutrophil is good?
Well, that wasn't a neutrophil, that was another basophil. For some reason, is there any way to turn down these front lights?
You gotta turn them all off.
Oh,
Hit the.
yeah, I don't, well, there we go. Now I can see here. Okay, here we go, right here. And I think this should look like 2 of them, but I'd be shocked if that thing was 1. Great. Okay, so again, you notice this is a completely different looking cell. They have a lot of gray things in the middle, and they have little teeny tiny black dots that are just moving all over the place. Those are called phagocytes. In the basophils, the granules are called, that's a granulocyte, the white marbles. These little black dots, those are called phagocytes, and they both secrete the same thing, enzymes out along the membrane. And that's the way they clean up the proteins off the blood. They'll digest and get rid of the bacteria, the fungus, anything that's in the body that's not part of the living body. And man, we get 3 of them all at once. Now these, if you go, now when you look at the size comparison, you have to go all the way out and see that fluid way out there. You could easily put 3 red blood cells in this one down here, probably 2 up in that one, and at least a couple down there. I can't see how far down that goes, but this is a really good size. minimum for a healthy functioning immune system, you want to all have them all at least 3 times larger than a properly formed red blood cell. So these are right on the bottom side of normal. They're very active. Zinc is the mineral that controls how fast any immune system cell would function from the nucleus material. That's why during the cold and flu season, right now, you're going to start seeing all products, with extra zinc, with added zinc. And even you have this airborne, all it is a zinc tablet. And yet it can prevent colds and flus. And it does that by speeding up your immune system's activity. So, and again, the background of the blood is so clean. There's no fibrinogen, there's no abnormal growth off of the platelets indicating hormonal imbalances or diabetes or any of that kind of stuff. I can see anything and everything almost related to any kind of a disease in the blood. But I can't tell any of you what I'm seeing because I can't diagnose. That's diagnosing. I can tell just because of all the experience and who I've worked with and where I've worked. But if I ever saw something that I thought you really were in trouble with your health, I'd say to you, go get diagnosed by a doctor. And once you have a diagnosis, then come see me and I'll show you how we can help you overcome that. See, no, this is perfect blood. And these little lines, that's what I'm talking about as far as fibrinogen, spicular stress strands. That's normally an inflammatory factor. Right now, it's all growing and feeding off of that bacteria, that little white ball that's there, the one floating along down there. And so that's actually an abnormal growth because that bacteria shouldn't be there. But it's just that one little area. But that's what fibrinogen looks like.
What was that? Is it anything bad?
No.
Hey, you know what? Get me
It's
off.
normal in everybody, man.
Oh, all right.
If you're consuming sugars of any kind, I know you do, chances are you're going to have that candida bacteria in there.
Oh, that big old cake we ate.
Yeah. Well, that's just one part of it. And here's a really good example of a free radical damage cell. Big waffleness around it. That down there is actually called an acanthocyte. And what that is, you see that there's more of a red or a round kind of protrusion. The points are more spiked, not just waffly. And you're going to see those. Okay? Don't get freaked out. But if I was to see probably maybe 10% of all your red blood cells looking like that, that would be an indicator that you have a congested liver. There's liver indications with that. You're properly hydrated, didn't see any echinocytes, none. Seen a couple free radical damage cells, but we're really, really way out here towards the bottom and the edges. And the further we go to the edges, the more oxidated you're going to see because the air is getting to the blood specimen on the edge of the cover slip. So let's not freak Michael out. Let's go back here to the middle.
Right.
Right. I could feel him right behind me. His body's heating up. The whole crap. So anyway, do you have anything else you want me to look for? Because I'm not going to find it. The only thing you got going on is a little bit of bacteria and a little bit of uric acid. And all that meant was you had a much larger protein meal than what you took your enzymes for.
All right.
So what kind of diet do you have, Michael? Are you vegan or you eat meat still?
I eat,
Okay, so now if somebody wants to turn up that light, then you can switch.
yeah.
And you can, what's that? I'm gonna do him here, because he's gotta drive about 500 miles, and I know you guys
Yeah, I
are.
lied, it was like.
What?
Oh, there too, but I'll go fast.